Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We are sharing an interview that our friend Pastor Jeremy Louison did with us in Memphis, Tennessee.
It's a behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of those episodes, but you know what? There's new people tuning into the podcast every week, and maybe you don't know Chris and Jodi and the Love and the Outcome story. We want you to know.
Yeah, and we got to know Jeremy a few years ago. He is a pastor of a church in Memphis, and they meet
Pioneer Church,
and they meet downtown Memphis at Visible Music College.
Yeah, if you're looking for a church or a music college, these are two awesome spots to go. And he asked us some really good questions. And the cool thing is, on the podcast together, we don't always do that. We don't have that kind of format where we ask each other stuff. But Jeremy just got to the heartbeat of Love and the Outcome, and to just really Chris and Jodi, questions like, how do you stay married and tight as a couple, but really on your own paths and individuals? How do you do that? How do you not lose your individual purpose within a marriage? And why did you get started in music in the first place? Tell me your story. How are you still doing music 7 years later? How does it feel to be a Christian from Canada living in America? And our hope is not that you would learn all these tips and tricks and all about our story, but that you'd be able to apply the pieces of our story that really fit with yours. Like, oh, that's me too. I really needed that bit for my life. I'm working on my dream, or I'm working on my faith, and this really applies. So hopefully there's something there for you today. Hey, I'm Jodi.
And I'm Chris.
And we are Love and the Outcome. Welcome to our podcast.
We're a husband and wife who rock out together.
We're parents of Milo and Ziggy.
And we're following Jesus as best we can.
Our story began in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where we fell in love, got married, and decided to sell everything and travel in our Jetta, selling CDs out of the trunk of our car.
The road led us to Nashville, where we signed a record deal, started our family, and now the four of us travel together in our minibus, White Neptune.
I know, crazy, right? Our life is a road trip.
And we want to invite you into it.
So come along for the ride as we chat with some of our favorite people about family, spirituality, wellness,
and of course, music.
Come on, let's go.
This podcast is brought to you by Hope and Healing International.
For $30 a month, $1 a day, you can sponsor a life-changing surgery for a little boy or girl living in Africa. We're talking about club feet, cleft palates, going from blindness to sight. In 1 year, you can literally send a healing hug and change a child's life.
If you'd like more information, go check out the website at lovehealinghugs.com, and you can see video of our buddy Bernard.
This is my son, Bernard. He wants so much to be and play like the other children. But he can't. Instead, he suffers every day. As a father, I would do anything for my son. I love him, but sometimes this is not enough. They say they can heal my boy. I told them, I work hard, but I have no money to pay for it. They told me someone in Canada is paying to heal my son.
For over 100 years, Hope and Healing International has helped break the cycle of poverty and disability for thousands of children in the poorest communities. But we can't do it alone. For $30 a month, you will directly fund the surgeries, medical care, and rehabilitation for a child who would otherwise go untreated. A child just like Bernard. We will send you a picture of every child you help, their treatment plans, and progress reports. And each child we treat on your behalf will receive this bear to hug on their journey ahead. All you have to do is go online or call now. It's that simple.
Thank you for making my son smile again.
And now it's time for my favorite and yours, Coffee Time with Chris, what he's really thinking as he stares off into the distance.
Well, this weekend was NBA All-Star Weekend. And it's the perfect transition for me because I get obsessed with football. And All-Star Weekend is a great kind of like switch.
You're so excited you're losing your voice. Did you cheer very loud during the game?
I guess I did.
Well, that's exciting.
I didn't actually get to watch much of it, but I saw the highlights of the three-point drill. Steph Curry.
Nice.
No
surprise there.
He's awesome. And then the end of the game, Dame Lillard hit the game-winning shot.
Nice.
Giannis won the MVP. And I got to watch the last 2 minutes because the rest of the game we were watching the interview with Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, that kind of took over.
Yeah, it was all-encompassing.
Yeah, and we had Thai food, which is our favorite. We don't do takeout often.
That's our comfort food.
That is. Well, thanks for the update on the game. Nice segue. I think that all of us knew Meghan was not having the best time inside royal life. But
yes, apparently we can qualify that as she was having the worst time.
The worst time. And it was really intense. It really left me, like having a hard time, which is like going to sleep that night because I was really thinking about, just the fact that royalty does not mean you escape racism. And that's crazy. It's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think that, and I mean, obviously we're looking at it as outsiders but we both grew up with the saga of Charles and Diana, and
we're from the Commonwealth. So
you'd think that these lessons would have sort of carried over to the next generation. And it, to the point that her own son has to basically effectively leave the royal family. Yeah. They have not carried over.
Yeah. Yeah. And way to go, Meghan, for not just admitting your mental state, but asking for help. And then when you couldn't receive the help you needed, removing yourself from the situation. Props to her husband and them as a couple for making the decisions that they needed to make for their family. All of it. And done with a lot of class and no hate. I didn't sense any hate. It was such a beautiful example, a really sad example, but also a beautiful example of how we can all handle ourselves in the middle of really tough, devastating circumstances. I mean, when your own family is calling your wife names and being racist towards, I mean, that is just about as low as it gets.
Just watch the interview and you'll get a good picture of that. I mean, talk about breaking with the status quo. If you ever needed a perfect example of someone who, couldn't live with the status quo, it doesn't get much more real than the royal family.
Well, and I know we're going on for a second here, but I really appreciated how Harry said for him, he did not want to see history repeat itself. And I feel like that's a takeaway for all of us. We posted a written note last week on socials that said, being a Christian doesn't give you a pass on dealing with your stuff. For all of us to be whole and be holy, there is a process that we're invited into. And yes, Jesus took care of our past and our sin, but that doesn't mean we have a pass on dealing with what we've inherited from our parents. Part of our lineage are just these, things that follow us around if we don't deal with them. And even if we do deal with them, they still follow us around. So being whole and holy is a process. And that was just such a reminder to me that that's really important work to do. If you haven't listened to our last podcast with Pastor Rich Velotis, that is a large part of it. It's just this internal examination as Christians that we sometimes don't do or take seriously.
Right.
And both the Meghan and Harry and our last podcast really fit into that. So check them out if you haven't.
I'm moving on. Guilt has had its grip on me for way too long. This will be my freedom song. Hallelujah, because of you I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
Hey, I'm here with Love and the Outcome. We have our guests, Chris and Jodi, here. So thankful that they could be here for our Thrive 2021 winter retreat. I can't believe it's 2021. I keep on wanting to say 2020.
It's trippy.
It is trippy,
It's
right?
a little bit trippy because it's a new year, but not a lot has changed. So it's
Right.
this very strange thing.
Right. It's like sleeping in the jeans you got home in and then waking up and going the next day. Like, this is great. So
Totally. Oh, man.
we're so thankful to have him here. We're just going to talk as friends, and I'm going to ask some questions, and we're just going to have a great time. So if you feel like, am I just in the room with a bunch of friends talking? Then yes. Yes, that's exactly what it's like. So I guess, guys, tell us your story. Like, how did you guys meet? You know, what was that like?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I mean, we're married, so if I do stuff like this, then it's all okay.
I know. I was sitting on the other end. I'm like, wait, no, this is like a 20-minute date.
We like each other.
Yeah, the kids are in the other room. We're just going to like get cozy.
We met, we're from Canada, and we met literally on the road. Our first, my dad is, he's going through all old like video archives, and he found our first gig together. And it was in a concert hall. It was before we were dating or anything. And yeah, it was, Jodi was singing backups for a worship leader in Winnipeg, and we became his backup band. So we kind of like joined the band separately, and then
Met on the road. It's so cheesy, but it's true. That's the real story.
and there's proof. There's video proof of it.
let's keep that video proof to ourselves.
Who noticed who first?
Well, I had the best view because I was the bass player. So I'm at the back, and I was like, all right,
Thanks for that info. Well, and you know what? We were both dating other people when we met, which was actually probably great.
How do the other people feel about that? I'm just kidding. Other people out there, it's okay.
Oh, and it
We're
was
married now.
it was hilarious because it allowed us to become just best buds. It was just me and a bunch of dudes. You know what it kind of always is if you're a girl in music. It often is, which that's another topic, maybe for later in the conversation.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we just got to be friends, and you can't hide in a minivan. Like, you get to know the real deal, the real person. And he was always pulling out chairs for me, opening doors for me, like really old school,
Man.
just gentlemen.
Nice job, man. You gonna leave me hanging? Please don't leave me hanging. There we go. Oh, yes.
I got you. I think I knew when we went on a double date before we were dating, so we were like, I was with
fun
who I was with
together.
before, and we were like, you're way more fun than the person I'm dating.
Listen, if you're the other person and you end up watching this in some way, shape, or form, it's not.
Oh no, I got dumped, so
Oh, okay,
There's
cool.
no-
I hope you watch this, and I hope
there's no sympathy there.
it hurts. No, that's wonderful. That's good. That's good.
We're not here to paint like a pretty rock star story. It's the real rock star story.
Really?
Like living in the car, basically homeless and broke. Like, you know what I mean? This is how it all started for us.
That's awesome. So tell me, what was like, because I know that both you guys probably had different dreams of where you wanted to go. Similar, but still different. Like, how did you guys end up saying, like, I think we should just do this together? And then you could end on how'd you got your name?
Yeah,
How'd
sure.
you get your name?
You know what? I really wanted to do this together, but as newlyweds with fairly big egos, it was just not going to work at first. Like, his band was a little further down the road in terms of like earthly success. They were touring a lot. They were in Eastern Europe. I'm part-time at my church, and I'm just taking gigs here and there on the weekends. And this is the true story. The very first weekend of shows together, newlyweds, my guitar player calls me, I'm sick, I can't play these shows, and I'm desperate. No one else knows the song except this guy. And I'm like, babe, I know you're a bass player, but you're also a guitar player. Like, can you come play with me? And it was so much fun that my heart was just like, this is how this works. Like, I can't do this forever by myself. Like, it's lonely. I married someone I like to hang out with. we're never hanging out. In Canada, like gig to gig's 8 hours apart. Like it just wasn't really practical on so many levels, but I didn't want to break up his band. Like, I don't want to be the wife who like jumps ahead of God's plans and like does my own kibosh and like, there you go, you know? So I was just praying, and you were praying, we were both just sort of seeing where these paths would go. But I think in that moment we saw what it could be, and it made us both excited. And then his drummer quit his band, and it was still,
And then the band broke up.
the band broke up, and I was like trying to be so sympathetic, but I was like, yes, Lord, hallelujah. Praise Jesus. And but it was
like weeping.
I
and,
know.
like, ashes and sackcloth.
like, I'm so sorry. For real though, because I was like, yes, but still, like, for us to become a band together, it would take another 5 years. Like, we were married 10 years before we saw this dream and these paths align. And it's a longer story than maybe we have time for right now, but after his mom went to be with the Lord, and we both laid down our dreams, like truly laid them down. Didn't know what was next, just said, God, like, we spent every penny, every bit of purpose and drive we have, like, our resources are gone. Wow. So this is either something, and it wasn't an ultimatum, it was a truly surrendered, depleted last plea of like, if you really want us to pick this up, we need you to show us super clear, because I think we're done, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was after that we ended up getting a call from the Newsboys to tour across Canada with them. Slowly put the pieces together, ended up in Nashville, and they're like, we love this, but we don't want Jodi King and her handsome husband Chris. We want Jodi and Chris. And so, like, could we brainstorm a new name? And we're like, well, God is love and we're the outcome. That's all that we have to give. Like, if our name's on a billboard, we want it to be God's name on a billboard. And we want everyone to feel invited into this mission. You know, everyone that comes to a show to leave going, what is like, being loved this much? I just encountered being loved, completely loved at this show. What do I do with that now?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Good. That's so good. Man, yeah, because I remember when I first heard you guys and I heard Love and the Outcome, I was like, that's a pretty interesting name. I like that. I really, really like that. So what were your thoughts when, as this whole transition was happening? Were you just kind of like, I mean, I know it hurts for your band to break up, or at what point were you like, I think I like this a whole lot better than my band?
Yeah, I think deep down I kind of knew. We had kind of the come to Jesus conversation earlier that summer, and I was like, I mean, this isn't really tenable, but my band at that point was still like kind of figuring things out, and but then the hammer came down, and it was like, you just kind of feel the weight of all the stuff that you've worked for the last 6 years. But I think
Never mind with your best buddies.
yeah,
It's
but then I knew like, for starters, Jodi is the best front person that I've ever played with. So, you know, doing live stuff is kind of that's my wheelhouse, and she's so much fun to play with. So that part was very easy.
Yeah.
The chemistry is real, babe.
It's real.
That's love, and they have two little outcomes, actually.
That's right. Yeah, it got literal fast.
Right? Their kids are adorable. I love you guys, because I love your whole family, actually, and following you guys on Instagram and just seeing how you guys do family while being in the music industry is really interesting. I know.
Really interesting.
So talk about that.
That's really a good way to put it.
Yeah, so talk about that. What is it like raising a family? Again, everything's pre-pandemic. Like, what was that touring with your kids? Because you guys, which really impressed me the first time I met, we'll go into the story and how we met. It's a crazy story. And
That's true.
What made you guys say, no, we're going to do this as a family, and we're not going to like leave our kids with anyone. Like, we're going to do this together? Because I know that's not easy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, not some of it, a lot of it was just, it had to be that way. You know, by the time Milo came along, we had been asked to do a pretty significant tour, and, you know, it was just, we couldn't leave it on the table. So Milo's first gig was at the Ryman in Nashville, playing behind Stephen Curtis Chapman. And we're just like, well, this will be a good story for him someday.
Was that 7 days after he was born, or
It wasn't 7, but it was like a few weeks.
Yeah, I know my mom was there.
Freaking out because I'm usually like super chill, but I knew it's like, oh, this is a whole new ball game now.
Wow.
I don't totally get, you know how it's really cool. You take a step and you only see that next step. Often that's how we live anyway. I feel like if I trust God as my provider, even when it's just mustard seed faith trust, it means today.
Yeah.
It means today. And it's so hard. And in this pandemic season, it's honestly been the hardest for us to live that way. Ironically, the road became a rhythm, even though it was unpredictable at times, that we got comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And being home for 10 months, it's been like, okay, I know you're my provider, even though we're using some credit card, and I know you're my provider, even though I don't know if I'm going to play a show again or when. Yeah. But instead of worrying in the when and the what, it's like, what next, God? I don't want to miss a season of preparation, and leaning in. But anyway, all that to say, it's just been a lot of learning to live in the day, in the moment, in the present. And the freedom and the gift of it all has been doing it our own way. Yeah. And I feel like if there's a gift that we, like a little piece of, we don't have a lot of wisdom tidbits. We just have life we've lived and like, hey, this worked for us, but getting the freedom to call our own shots with Holy Spirit has been special.
That's so nice.
So special. Like it took me a while, but I realized I could be a mom my own way. And that was so freeing for me. I realized the pressure came from trying to be perfect in terms of what being a woman, gets married, has children, and now you have value. Yeah. Way to go. Way to hit all those marks. It's like, whoa. Right.
And then what?
Didn't I have value before I met Chris? Like, Lord made me. I have value. So just getting to go, wow, like I don't need to dance to the beat of anyone else's drum. If I'm in step and flow with Holy Spirit, what does that look like for us? How do we make this our own adventure? And I think we all can do that. Absolutely. But the road's given us a chance to do that.
No, that's so good. That's so good. So I've been asking this question to a lot of pastors recently and just talking to them and asking them, what is something that you guys have learned while being in the pandemic that you don't think you would have learned outside of it? I know it's like, let me roll out the list.
That's exactly right. I'm like, which tidbit?
Yeah.
I'll let you go first.
I really like my job. And I mean, that maybe being a musician and saying that sounds kind of funny to people. It's like you have the best job in the world. It's like, I really do. Yeah. I only get to play music like for maybe 2% of the day when you're a musician and you're touring and you're on the road.
You're really you're a bus driver essentially.
But I realized that I kind of loved all those little things. I liked the driving and I liked the loading in and setting up and different hotels. Not every hotel, but kind of the whole experience. And then kind of the contrast of like pulling into the driveway and you're home for a few days and it's like, oh yeah, this is where I recharge to go back out, and then I recharge there to come back home. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe that realization. And I've been working out a lot more, so maybe that.
I was gonna tell you, man, you're looking. I don't know if you can wear lines anymore. Well, your arms are looking a little swollen.
I'm also eating a lot more snacks, so they're kind of balancing out. But
Mandalorian has something to do with that, possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
Hey, I love that show.
There's a lot of binging happening.
I love that show. That last episode, I was just like,
oh yeah.
I'll let you guys chat about that. Yeah. I was over here. I won't say what I was watching because I don't know.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean just all the girly shows. Just needed some girl time. I'm in a house of boys.
Say it. I have in a house of girls.
That's right.
Yes.
This is funny.
I'm in a house of all girls, so.
You're all about the tea parties.
Yeah.
What was the one Emily in Paris? You like that one, right?
I don't know if we should be saying that out loud to everybody. I just lost credibility as a woman.
Was I supposed to say it like Emily in Paris?
Oh, now they totally think we're cool, so that's okay. Well, it's the fashion. I'm not gonna say the whole show is like what Anyway, moving on.
Anyways.
What have I learned? Yeah, you know what? I love making money.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be, that's a weird thing for a woman
No.
to say sitting on
No.
this couch. I've really wrestled through what makes me tick and why,
Yeah.
and whether or not I guilt my default setting is guilt and shame, like my inner monologue.
I think most humans, like whenever
You
they
think?
experience something good,
I don't even know if that's
you
just
have
me.
this evil thought pop into your head.
Right.
Like you're like, what the, like I'll be having fun with my daughters and we're just playing, and then just negative thought just comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, why? Where did you come from? Who invited you? So no, I totally
It's
get
true.
that.
I've realized that it is just as vulnerable. Like, you're not only being vulnerable when you're sharing your hardest stuff, you're being vulnerable by sharing your joy. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to sit in joy because we automatically feel like something's around the corner about to like bite us, you know? But yeah, it's been a season of going, I don't need to feel guilt for the fact that I love my job, or shame for the fact that I love to get a paycheck and that I feel so blessed that my passion is my paycheck, or has been.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of figuring that out, going, what makes me feel alive in the season of being home, and just really practical things like paying attention to that. When do I feel most creative? Leaning into that to still honor that part of me. A lot of those practical things. I learned how to make sourdough so that at the end of the day, I still felt like I love to be productive.
Yeah.
That just really made me feel great, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like the real practical level of things. And then just kind of leaning into going, like, we've had to let go many times before in our life. When we first started, we sold our entire condo and everything in it and got in our Jedi. It all started with a letting go. I feel like we're right back there.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, we're wrestling through selling our tour bus, which has been like a part of our identity. It's kind of
Yeah.
become that.
Yeah.
Tour life has become our identity. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's a really good season to check ourselves and just go, what am I leaning on right now? And to not feel like you're imprisoned by a dream. It's funny. Dreams are great. We're all about chasing our dreams.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's
in a
so
season
good.
of going, God, if I got to lay something down again, because when we're holding tight to things, he can't give us something new.
That's so good.
And if I'm holding on to this bus, or if I'm holding on to this past season and he's trying to move us into a new season, I want to be ready for that.
Yeah.
So just trying to know what to let go of and what to lean into right
No,
now.
that's really good.
She's also being very modest. You released a book. in
I
the
did
middle-
write a
Yeah,
book.
I was gonna stop jumping ahead, man. I have these questions up here. No,
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. No, tell everyone about your book. There you go. It's gone now. No, tell everyone about your book. Tell everyone.
Sure. I mean, that's it. Like what we've just been talking about.
That's it.
That's kind of it. It's just, I started it at the
So
beginning.
what inspired you to write a book and say? Because
Yeah.
I know writing
Yeah.
a book is not easy.
No.
'Cause
It
it's
wasn't
like-
that much fun, honestly.
I know a lot of people who tell me, like, when they write a book, some people are like, it wasn't too bad, and some people are like, I'll never do that again.
It's hard.
So tell me, like, what inspired you? What was your process like to write a book?
Chris being with the kids. Thank you, babe. It's always teamwork, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this pandemic, it's just so much like fist bump. Okay, divide and conquer. I'll go do this thing. You do that thing. It started when Milo was about 18 months old and Ziggy was a newborn. And it felt like we were backstage, first show of 40 shows. And I was trying to be all the things for all people. Was trying to put on my sequin suit and still be like a rock star and be a mama and then nurse my baby and like be really put together and like, look at me, hey. And it was literally 30 seconds to showtime and I was in my sweats still and I was still trying to figure out how to nurse and I just couldn't do it. And I like had a breakdown in that first show green room. And I yelled at the Lord. I was like, you got this? Kind of like an ultimatum, like, you called me to this. I know you're going to equip me for it, but I don't feel equipped. Like, I just feel like a failure. And Chris was like, babe, write that song, write that book, write that down. Like, you got this. And I did. I just wrote it down. And I started to journal what it meant to be held, what it meant to be equipped in real time. Because I think it's so tricky. Like, all my life, I could tell you a scripture verse and it sounded great. And here's my song about it. But like to tell you what that really meant,
For sure.
like to break it down, it was like I didn't know how to actually take that promise off the page and use it as my foundation, you know? And the pivot point that it provides when you go, wow, I'm falling apart, but God can use me in sweatpants, not just in sequins. And it can even be more powerful. And so if I let people in and I humble myself, even though it's public and it's on stage, it feels messy. I cried so many tears that first show, but it was like a beautiful undoing. And I've tried so hard never to go back. It's like I have to call myself on my own BS sometimes and be like, whoa, you're trying to look pretty and cute and perfect. That's no. Like let people into your actual moment. Yeah. So it's a book. It's like a day by day devotional, page by page pivot point of just going, okay, God, like I don't have it all together, but you are going to hold me together. And I'm going to like go to you, go to you, go to you. And so it's like a thought, a verse, and then a question to journal about. That's
so good. So where can everyone find your book at?
I think it's everywhere. It's on Amazon. I should know all these things. It's on iamjodiking.shop, right?
iamjodiking.shop.
Chris runs the store and like, cause he's organized like that and sends things out. No one would get a book if it was up to me, but, so Amazon and iamjodiking.shop, I think.
That's wonderful. What I love about you guys is that you guys are a band, but you guys have your own identities. Like just being friends with you guys and knowing you, what is it, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be at least that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Cause I remember your kids when they were like itty bitty.
Yeah.
And now they're bigger bitty.
That's true.
You're just bitty.
Yeah, they're just bitty now. But no, like from knowing you guys are like, you know when to be a band and you know when to be like, I'm just Chris and I'm just Jodi and we're married, but we have our own. Because some people, they lose their identities in their bands or and it's just like, who are you without your spouse here? So that
hasn't been, to be honest with you, we did a podcast all about that.
Yeah.
How to like have your own identity and be unified in a ministry, because that's a push and pull that we're always adjusting to, because I think God is the same all the time, which allows us to change and evolve. I know that word can be taboo and Christian, everything, but we're always changing and coming back to the same truth and seeing it differently. And so we have to leave this space for each other to be always changing and then still stay together. So it's not easy, but it's like a high value for us. It's like unity, not uniformity.
Absolutely.
So that's sweet that you said that, because that's actually something like I feel like we're really intentional about, and try and encourage other women. Like I get so many DMs from girls like, how do I find someone like Chris? Like you're Chris. Like how do I? And it's like, that's so cool.
My Chris is taken.
Yeah. Can't like back off. but no, for real, I feel like as women, we're just, again, like trying to always find our husband to complete us. And that's beautiful in the right time. Right. But like, man, if you don't know who you are, you're kind of missing that sweet spot too.
Absolutely. No, I've talked to our church several times, and I've been like, we all know that line that says, "You complete me," and it's just like, no, they don't, because they're incomplete. So you guys are just really just incomplete together, and so
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
we need to have you on the podcast.
Oh, I'll drive to Nashville. People know I don't love Nashville, but I love my friends in Nashville. I have friends in Nashville. Well,
I didn't know that about you.
Nashville hates on Memphis a little bit.
Does it? Yeah. See, we're not from there, so we don't know all these things.
So you don't have that vibe to you. So that's why I said I love my friends. I got some friends.
That's too bad. I gotta say,
there can be a bit of a superiority complex. Cities that have football teams versus cities that don't in the same state, and that just seems harsh.
Yeah, I know.
You got a streetcar. You got all the things. We saw your downtown. We were like, Memphis, yes.
Yes, Memphis has so much culture. I love Memphis. I'm from New York, but I love Memphis. If it's okay, let's pivot just a little bit. I know there's some students who want to be where you guys are at right now. And if you could just tell us like what the onboarding was for that and what that looked like and how because I know in the industry you can get swallowed up really quick. And did you guys have any of those moments where you're like, whoa, like this is too much? How did you not lose your identity in the Christian music industry?
Jesus. Help us, Lord.
Are you praying, or is that your answer?
It's all the things.
She's like, Lord, let us answer this in holiness and righteousness.
Yes, Lord.
I mean, I think for me, part of like, we didn't enter it as spring chickens. Let's put it that way. We weren't, 21 and getting our first record deal. So I think, for me, going through the experience of having a band, of guys that are, playing whatever they want, playing their favorite tune. Yeah. And kind of shifting into, I love the music that we play, but my Spotify playlist would look a lot different than just the Love and the Outcome playlist. So I kind of got to experience that a little bit. So when I think bringing those experiences into it with Jodi and doing it together, we always had, I don't want to say we were like in our own little bubble, but we had kind of this sort of like force field around us that we were like, or maybe sort of like, well, I'll say it because you already said it, but we had like a BS detector around us.
Oh, that's good.
So
well, and you knew who
we
you
could
were.
we could always just kind of bounce it off each other, be like,
Yeah,
did
that's
that
helpful.
really resonate with you, or was that kind of like, nah, that's just something that this industry says.
Yeah, that's good.
But you always tell music, because you're the band, like you do all the things. And I love when you say that, like that your playlist has to not just be Hillsong. Like we love Hillsong, but yeah, what you're listening to is shaping what you're creating. And I love, we came at it from such different
I don't
angles.
imagine that Joel Houston just listens to Hillsong either.
Exactly. Case in point.
He listens to
Exactly.
Biggie. We've talked about it.
Right.
Amen.
You've had him on
Amen.
this guy. It was literally, we joke, we're like, it was sort of like Sting meets Amy Grant, and we tried to make a band, and it was just like, how do you even do that? Like, it was hard. Like our biggest fights are over the gym, like working out and music rehearsals.
Used to be, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. You have a gym in the shed, but yeah, like when we're a band and we're really in band mode, we can take it, because you have to be able to like, I didn't love that, I love that, or anyway.
Yeah, how are you guys transparent when it comes to songs and sounds? Because I know you may hear one thing and Chris may hear one thing, and how do you guys like work that out amicably and say, do you guys have like a third person that is like, well, let's pull this person in? And
Yeah.
This might sound funny, but we don't write together alone very often. We tried it at first, but it works so much better when there's someone else, kind of like,
It's true.
a three-way kind of bouncing of ideas off each other.
it's good.
For us, it just kind of, it ends up sounding like, well, this kind of sounds like Tom Petty. Oh, cool, let's do that. And then like that's not really what we should be writing.
Yeah.
I think like back to your first question too about if people want to be where we are or whatever. Yeah.
Part of the reason it's hard to answer is because neither of us went to music school. So we can't give like the straight like stay in school and get your degree, and
I don't expect you guys.
obviously you should be doing that.
Yeah.
But I think you do have to give your yes. What you give your yes to, you're giving your no to something else always, right? We only have so much energy, and you can't chase every goal at the same time.
Right.
And I think for us, we did let go of a lot of backup plans to chase this dream.
Yeah.
So I do think that although we didn't do music school, giving your yes to music school is giving your yes to the future you're after.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Like, just make sure your inner life and your outer life are aligned. You can't, like, we get so many DMs like, oh, I got this one YouTube video and I just want to be doing what you're doing. It's like, okay, that's a great first step. Like, what's your next step?
That's good.
You really do have to make sure in this, especially in a day and age where like we just see things on TV or YouTube or whatever and just assume it's an easy path.
Yeah.
If you want longevity, like, you got to put the time in. Because here's the thing, like, we did 10 years with no record deal. Now we've had 6 years with a record deal. I don't know what 21 holds. Like
Yeah.
my value and my worth and my staying power can't be in our record deal.
That's
You know,
really
it just
good.
can't be. And I can't stop growing once we got the record deal, and then we kept growing and pushing to the next thing, you know? So just stay the course, stay consistent, even if everything around you is not consistent. You don't get a pass.
No, that's good.
You
That's
know?
really good. I love that you guys said that there was no plan B, because I know for me, when we were planting Pioneer,
Yeah.
it was just like, what's your plan B if it doesn't work? I'm like, we don't have a plan B. We're not making a plan B, because that gives you a safety net,
Right.
and that makes you like,
so hard.
it's so hard to get rid of that, right? Because you want to, we grow up with our parents telling us, have a backup plan.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And for
Yeah.
us, for Tasha and I, was like, we're all in. Like, we're just all in. If this bust, and literally there are times we'd look at each other and be like, Pioneer or bust, you know?
But it steals energy from you. It steals brain capacity. Just like there's this thing that's constantly worrying
It's
in the
an
back
app that's
that, like,
always open.
I know
Yeah.
I know that I can go back and do this. It's like, well, that's fine. Then just stop thinking about it. If you know that you can do that,
Right.
then
It's
then
funny.
you don't have to worry about it anymore.
And it's funny
Right,
how God
that's so
answers
good.
prayer. Like, I'm sure you and Tasha have had this moment. Like, we ditched the backup plans, and then we followed it up by selling the condo, getting in the Jetta, and going. But then we live on visas in America, so we can't do legally anything else.
So
this is all we can do.
Immigrant. We don't live on our visa card. We live on immigrant visas.
Immigrant visas. So like we legally, it was like God answered the prayer. He's
We're not-
like, great, move to Nashville, count on me and nothing else. Like there's nothing else. There, you can't even go work at Starbucks. So like in this season of being home for 10 months, like this is all we can do. And wow, like no backup plan. We've often looked at each other like the no backup plan thing. Hey, like, yeah.
That's wonderful. That's funny. So tell me, these are the last couple questions. I know how much of the marketing and videoing and streaming, like how much of that do you guys do yourselves? Because I think sometimes there's a misconception, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's just like, oh, when I land this record deal, we're going to have just all this people do it for us, and
Right.
we don't have to worry about it.
Right.
And then the pandemic hits, and it's just like, no, you got to start doing your own stuff and like making your way. Tell me what that has been like for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, luckily, again, because we had done so much independently in Canada, that nothing is ever wasted. You know, those verses that seem like God doesn't waste anything. So beautiful. But what does that mean? In our life, it just means like Chris has a past life as a video editor. I have a past life of XYZ, and now we're using all of those skills and like starting a podcast, and Chris edits the podcast. And so you're right. Like all those skills you're building, you might not know where they're leading you, but you're going to use it. And it's never a waste, like teach a man to fish, right? Especially in a season where resources for us are a little lower than usual. I've been so grateful that we had built up a few of these things going in to go, great. Because like you can't build 10 habits in a pandemic, but you can build one and add it to what's already built. So that when we get back on the road, the habit of the podcast is already built. So we can keep it going. So honestly,
and we now live in a time and place where you don't just have to have $1 million music video to get attention.
Right.
You can go on TikTok and
you should, even though I don't love it.
right. You
I
can go
don't
on
have a
TikTok and
TikTok.
clap your hands and have 1 million followers the next day.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
friend, Ryan, and he's always bugging me to get on TikTok, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not my time. It's
Right.
not my time. Not
It's
yet.
hard to keep up.
It's
That
hard.
is like a whole
'cause it's
nother
Instagram,
convo.
TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, like Snapchat.
And
So
be
when
present
you
to your
decide to do it,
family
you have
and
to
be
go
present.
on and be like, it's TikTok time.
Chris is like, go have TikTok time because I just hate it right now because it just feels like another thing I have to learn, and I just don't want to. But it's either it's what boxes this fit in, and how do I put a boundary around this? How can I make this a healthy thing? Because here's the thing: it is a part of our job,
Yeah.
and you either make peace with that, or you don't. And in our life, we've just realized like, okay, this has to be part of business hours, and I just got to make a space for it. And so anyway, just boundaries around things so we can stay healthy. When does the phone go off and go in
Yeah.
the basket and it's just left? If TikTok didn't happen, it didn't happen, you know? But it's a lot. And sometimes it really gets the better of me because I run our socials, all of them. Like the label doesn't touch our socials. if I asked someone to, they would, which would mean it would get updated once a month. No offense, they just have a billion artists.
Right.
So it's not really
Right.
on them.
Yeah.
It's on us to maximize or to be okay with it minimized. So we want to maximize. So I've taken that on, and I want to be authentic.
Yeah.
So I wasn't okay. I just wasn't okay to give that away.
Yeah.
And like, there's certain things I can do and there's certain things I can't. And for me, especially like Instagram is like, I need to hold on to that. I'll give something else away.
Yeah, that's
You know?
so good. That's so good. I just wanted to, so how we met, it's a little bit of an interesting story. My wife's aunt or cousin, you guys were playing at a show, right?
Yeah, we were leading
Out
worship.
west, right?
Yeah.
I had to do
Sacramento?
a show.
California. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so I think that she came up to you guys after the show and told you guys about us. And I remember her telling us, and we were just kind of like, we didn't think anything of it because I'm like, oh, they're big. We're a little plant church, like
Oh,
whatever, you know. And so, did you guys reach out? Yeah,
She
reached
wrote
out.
your contact or Tasha's contact, someone's contact, you or the church, on a napkin. And I
Always have a pen ready and a napkin available.
Yeah.
You never know.
For sure. I tucked it into my coat. I don't think I wore that coat for a bit because it was a California coat, not
Yeah.
a Nashville winter coat. And when that season came around, I was like, oh, yeah. I said I would reach out. I'm going to reach out.
Yeah.
Because, like, your yes is yes. And, like, Chris has taught me that. He's the most consistent, like, man of integrity I've ever met. And it's really taught me. And he's led me so beautifully how to show up on time. We were 10 minutes late. But usually, like, I didn't value those
Okay.
things, but he's
It was
taught
family
me.
time. No, it's okay.
So, anyway, I took that piece of paper out, and I think I found you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Back to the Instagram.
Back
It all
to the
comes around.
gram. Always back
I
to the
found
gram.
Pioneer Church on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I sent you a DM, I think.
And then the rest is history. It's so funny because when they first called, I was like, what is this? Oh. All right, I guess. And I'll be transparent. Like, I was just kind of like, wow, we have these like big Christian artists reaching out, and we're like this little, at the time we were like 10, 20 people. And I was just like, they don't want to come here.
No, it was
like,
beautiful.
Like, I almost, like, for me, I was just like, I feel like I'm wasting their time, but you know, and so we just kept on talking, and God was like, get over it, man. And we got over it real quick. I think the beautiful thing about having a friendship with you guys has been the outcome of your cousin, your family member being able to come and be a part of our church. So that impact on his life has just been amazing.
That's
I
a
actually wanted
really
to ask
cool
you that.
story.
Yeah.
How that's been, because like you see him more than we do.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's so that part of the story is their family member, cousin, he showed up to our church one day, and I'm, just saying hi and everyone. He was just like, yeah, my cousins came here. I saw them on their social media, and I was just like, who are your cousins? They're like, oh, Chris and Jodi. And I was like, he's like, Love and the Outcome. I was like, oh yeah, like awesome. And then he's been coming for a year and a half now, and like from the moment I met him to now, just his spiritual growth has been so inspiring to me as a pastor, and just seeing the Holy Spirit change his heart to the point where he's like questioning the things that he says and the things that he does. And it's not on me. It's just been the community, him like intent. He's been doing the work, right? So it just hasn't been like, I'm calling him and I'm doing this. He's been doing the work on his end. And it's just like the conversations we have been so just nourishing. So
That's so
I love that.
beautiful.
It's such a pay it forward kind of story because his mom and dad, like my cousins, they were kind of like that to me. Growing
It's
up.
the reason Chris like plays music.
Yeah,
Wow.
because his dad is a bit older than me, like 10 or 11 years. So
That's
yeah.
amazing.
No, yeah.
And it's such a reminder to me that like, that verse, and I don't know, I'm not going to get the scripture reference right, but your gifts are not for you.
Right.
Like you and Tasha saying yes, like it's not about you. It's not about us. And then this beautiful fruit comes from just a yes. And like God builds his kingdom. Like that is the first time I heard Darlene check, she came to our church in Nashville, and she preached on that. Like our gifts are not for us. I didn't write shout to the Lord for me.
Yeah.
I wrote it for God to do what he needed to do in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And like, look at that song. And it's just like our little yeses are just so powerful.
It is powerful.
I love that.
It is powerful. Well, guys, tell them where to follow you guys on socials and tell them about your podcast, and we'll get it out there, and we'll probably put this on.
Maybe we'll turn this into a podcast.
Hey.
Would that be
yeah.
cool?
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. We'll send it to
There
you
we
guys
go.
and let's make this a podcast. I love talking to you guys. You guys
I
are,
love it.
you
That's
guys are,
beautiful.
like, 3 years. I think we did almost miss 2020, but I'm gonna throw this into 2020
Yes,
because
totally.
we had you guys 2017, 18.
And then pandemic,
For tax purposes, it's 2020, right?
Right, exactly.
We can fit it in.
Hey, as long as we haven't gotten no returns, it's just like it's still 2020.
That's right.
I love it.
No, tell them where to follow you guys. I know you guys on Instagram, Loving the Outcome, or anything that you want
At
to
Love
share.
and the Outcome. The only weird one is Twitter. It didn't
Our
fit.
name is too long for that.
at Love and Out.
But you know what? I
Really
can't
true.
really say what I want to say in, like, Lecrae. All my favorite people on Twitter are just like, they just say it. I'm still too much of a wimp. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting braver. But Twitter, I don't go on that much. You know?
But you know what? Twitter, you can get away with spelling mistakes, so it might be
Maybe I need to take it
right
up
up
then.
your alley.
Babe. That's true. But yeah,
I don't need to spell check it anymore if it's on Twitter.
but yeah,
awesome.
just at Love and the Outcome. I think that's
That's
it.
wonderful. And listen to their podcast. They have amazing people on their podcast. Pick up Jodi's book and give it a read. Knowing them, I know the book's going to be wonderful. So thank you guys so much for your time. We'll see you later. Love and the Outcome.
Thanks for joining us today, friends. If you have enjoyed this, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And Healing Hugs is all that we're about. These days, we're so passionate about seeing children have surgeries sponsored because of this podcast.
Yes.
And if you feel moved, if you've maybe wanted to spend $1 a day, not on yourself, but give it and be part of a miracle, this is the best place to do it. So check out lovehealinghugs.com. Oh, and our Patreon. We have a whole bunch of you signed up for our Patreon. It's basically an exclusive access to all things Love and the Outcome. We make specific content and Bible studies and worship events just for our Patreon, our patrons, I guess.
Our Patreon patrons.
So
you
check
can
out the
go-
link.
Yeah, you can go to patreon.com/love and the outcome.
Sending love, everyone. Have a great day.
Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today we do a little